Politicians in Washington want to create another federal bureaucracy with the goal of taking away your guns. Well, they're calling it gun safety, but you know what that means. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but first we get a super secret giveaway going on. It's happening right now. It is absolutely free, but it ends really soon. And all you got to do to figure out what you can win by clicking the link in the description down below. And here's a hint, it fits in a holster. So let's talk about this right now, the Office of Gun Violence Protection. So a couple of politicians up on Capitol Hill, one senator, one representative, have put forth what they're calling the Office of Gun Violence Protection Act. And they want to create another bureaucracy inside the Department of Justice to talk about gun violence prevention. Okay, that's what we're looking at, the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. I may have misstated, I may have said protection, but it's the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. And they got this whole list of things that they want to do. They're talking about cross-department cooperation, and they're talking about making sure that families are safe and things like that, and having firearm safety education. And there's this long list of groups that they want to meet with, that they want to have. The first item they need to have is an advisory council, which means it's a big group of people coming together and getting paid for gun violence prevention. But guess who it doesn't include? Gun owners. It doesn't include anyone from the gun industry. And if we're talking about gun violence prevention, and we're not mentioning the gun industry, specifically Project Child Safe, where we in the gun industry have given away 40 million gun locks over the years. 40 million gun locks, and have an entire program designed to prevent the misuse of firearms, to educate people about the proper storage of firearms. And this government agency won't even include us in the conversation, something we've been doing for more than a decade to help people store their guns safely. We have a suicide prevention program. We have giving away free gun locks. We work with law enforcement so people can then interact with local law enforcement. So we're building bridges there as well to make sure that gun owners know how to properly secure and store their firearms to prevent the misuse of those firearms. Think about this for a minute. How can we have a bureaucracy set up to prevent gun violence that doesn't include people who own guns and people who are out there actively working to make guns safer, to store guns more safely? It just boggles my mind. Furthermore, any of these gun safety groups, Everytown for USA, Moms Demand Action, or anything like that, go out to their website. Go right now and try to find out where they're having a gun safety class, or if they're giving away free gun locks. They're not doing anything to promote gun safety. They're not teaching people how to safely use firearms, not teaching people how to safely store firearms. They're not giving away gun locks. All they're doing is trying to restrict gun ownership and make it more difficult for gun owners. And they're doing it under this umbrella statement that it's a gun safety organization. It's not. Think about how much gun safety has changed over the years. I went to my hunter safety class in my school, where I took my rifle, my little .22 rifle, when I was 12 years old, to my school to demonstrate the safe use and storage of that gun, to prove that I knew how to do it. None of these groups are doing anything like that. What they are is gun prohibition groups. And this new Office of Gun Violence Prevention is just that. It's put together to find ways to make it more difficult for Americans to own and keep guns. We have an entire program dedicated, it's Project Child Safe, run by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the biggest group that represents gun makers and gun owners in the country. This is our business wing. The National Shooting Sports Foundation represents the firearms industry. And we have a very active and vibrant gun safety program that's already in place. And we don't need another government bureaucracy to try to talk about what we can do to make guns safer or make gun ownership safer. It's out there. We're doing it. We're doing it every day. And now these politicians in Washington want to pull together a group of people to talk about what they can do for gun safety. But they're not talking to gun owners. They're not talking to the firearms industry. They're not talking to the people who are spending millions of dollars every year to promote gun safety, giving away gun locks, teaching people how to store their guns safely, providing suicide prevention resources, all of the things that this Office of Gun Violence Prevention says they're going to do are already being done. And nobody's bothering to ask us because they want to paint us as people who don't care. And that's just the opposite. As gun owners, what we do is care. We care about safety. We care about gun safety. We care about our family safety. We care about the safety of people out on the streets. We carry guns with the idea of one day protecting our lives if we are forced to do so. Honest, law-abiding gun owners stop crimes more than 1 million times a year. We save lives. We prevent accidents. We teach people to effectively use and store their firearms properly. And we're just absolutely being ignored by the anti-gun politicians in Washington who want to spend more of our taxpayer money to restrict our rights. We've got to stop this. We've got to use the resources we already have in place. If you're not familiar with Project Child Safe, go out there, just Google it, Project Child Safe. You'll see all of the cool stuff that they have going on there right now. And this is exactly what this Office of Gun Violence Prevention is supposed to be doing. And we in the gun industry are already doing it. We're already taking the steps to make things safer. Accidental shootings, or I even call them negligent shootings. I take the word accident out of it because I think it happens when people don't have proper safety training and they do something wrong, have been dropping year after year after year because of the way we in the gun industry have been improving our safety standards. That's the kind of things that we need to trumpet and tell everybody about. The whole world thinks we're not doing anything about the dangers of guns. We are. The people who are not doing anything about the dangers of guns are these so-called gun safety groups. They're not educating anyone. They're not doing anything except pushing forward legislation to try to take away your guns and keep you from getting new guns. That's all there is to it. So again, we in the gun industry, we honest, law-abiding gun owners, are doing everything within our power, everything that the government has just laid out in this new plan for the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. We're doing that already. And now the government wants to spend a bunch of money to put together a group of people who hate guns and want to see them go away to talk about how they can prevent gun violence. They need to take action to stop crime, to provide more opportunities in these crime-ridden neighborhoods, and stop coming into the homes of honest, law-abiding gun owners and trying to take our guns. So just opening this one-page document that the government sent out, the Office of Gun Violence Prevention Act would bring together those most impacted by gun violence and leaders from agencies across the federal government. I'm reading this right off their document. And they're supposed to do the following: provide policy recommendations, accurate data and research, work with state and local outreach and education coordinators, cross-sector coordination. Of course, that cross-sector coordination doesn't involve the gun industry, and maximize and coordinate programs and services related to preventing gun violence. They are to convene an advisory council, engage in cross-sector coordination, collect and report on data, make policy recommendations, certainly all of which will be restrict guns more, and educate the public. The gun industry has been working to educate the public for decades and decades. We have a sign here in our office from 1947 talking about knowing your target and what's beyond it. That's gun safety, one of the 4 cardinal safety rules. They're also supposed to work to optimize the administration of the National Instant Criminal Background Check System. You know what? That's working perfectly right now. They're doing millions upon millions of instant background checks with the sales of guns at federally licensed gun dealers. It's already working. And then, of course, report to Congress. And they have to report to Congress so they can get more of your taxpayer money to spend that money to restrict our gun ownership. This is just a boondoggle of the biggest order in Washington. It is just another way that they're going to spend your money to take away your rights.